Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the premiere of Westworld, the original. And overall, I didn't really get sucked in. I mean, I'd heard good things about it, but when I was watching it, I'm like, this is kind of weird. And granted, the premise is kind of interesting, that there's this theme park world that's like the Wild West. Everything's kind of like really advanced robotics, and you can go in and kind of mess around, but it seemed like it was trying to do both too much at once and too little at once, because I never found a character or anything that really kind of sucked me in. So it kind of effectively did kind of a Groundhog Day kind of effect throughout the episode, in that we started with them kind of talking with one of the robots because they had done an update that kind of started messing with them in certain ways. Because the creator, Dr. Ford, had put these reveries in them so that they could somewhat access their older memories, i.e., like, say they were in one story narrative scenario and then they got killed or whatnot, or that scenario got shut down. They would then be brought back in, messed around with, memory wiped, and then put back out, and they wouldn't remember what happened. So he kind of did this for, like, interesting effects. But as we're going through, we can see that really wasn't that good of an idea, because it led to some developments of almost kind of self-awareness in at least one of the, as they term, hosts, because the humans are the guests that come in, the newcomers, and these are the hosts hosting them in their home and doing their usual story scenarios and everything. It was kind of interesting and almost kind of game-like, but then again, no characters really drew me in for like a premise or anything. Like when I was watching the premiere of like Preacher, I was like, oh, I see these characters, I know I'm supposed to care about them, but they would draw me in because of how they were written and what they were doing. And here, I mean, there's some interest with certain ones, but it just was like, I don't know what this is trying to do or what's kind of going on. Because it's got the Western, and it's done all right, but it's doing also the sci-fi at the same time. It's almost like having two good things and them not gelling together when you're eating them. You're like, I would rather have one or the other rather than both together, because it kind of either fights with the flavors or it's like doesn't go well together. And with this, you would think the concept would work out, but the way it's being done just kind of doesn't interest me very much. If it was like one or the other, or focused more on certain things of it, yes, it would interest me. But if it was just like, okay, we see these characters going in, these people who are being the guests, and it's interesting to kind of see the town and see the different characters, this Teddy character and the Dolores character, who I think Dolores is supposed to be like our main focal point, because she's the one talking at the end. We kind of see her throughout, believing that the world is good and not questioning her existence or anything. And she, of course, was updated with the faulty update with the mistakes that they talked about in, and weird other stuff starts happening as well. We see the sheriff kind of bugging out and having seizures. They had to bring him in, kind of like talk about his coding and all that, and seeing other of the guests go through and kind of have their way. And one dude said that he had been the white hat guy, the good guy at one time, and then just went all evil the other time, which raises some really interesting questions, but doesn't really deal with them, at least at the moment, talking about like people going in and like killing other people, and the hosts can't harm any guests, at least at the moment. So people can pretty much live out murder fantasies and pretty much, in my opinion, do sexual assault and rape on these robots, even though it kind of blurs the line between if they're self-aware and all that, but it's still, they're doing horrible things like this with almost no consequences. Now, granted, you could say the same thing about video games, but this is a different kind of thing. It's like actually going into it, and it's like really weird, but it doesn't deal with that or come up with that, at least at the moment. It could further it on. It's just kind of like disturbing to see what's going on, that people can live it out like this and pay all this money to do these things to people. And it's just like, since they're so lifelike and everything, aren't they people? You know what I mean? Because in the video games they're like pre-programmed AI. It's kind of going through its own motions. These are almost people with personalities and everything, or at least they're almost those final steps. And it's just like that's kind of screwed up. And then we see this one dude, the Man in Black, who I don't really get, but he's kind of going to be interesting, I think, because he says he's been coming to the park for 30 years, and he's been, like, sometimes doing other things to this, like, the oldest host we find out, the Dolores host, and it's just kind of, like, really weird, but I'm like, okay, I don't know, it's interesting material to go with that blurring of is it human or is it not human, since it's pretty much built to be a human representation, and doing these things almost constitute a crime? What's the end game goal of this organization? Is it to make because they were talking about that with the Anthony Hopkins creator dude, like, we pretty much wiped out diseases, we pretty much gotten to our peak, what's next? We're pretty much done, unless this is almost like the next step of possibly making these bodies into immortality machines for people almost. But then again, it's kind of like almost trying to be high concept, but yet not getting there. Now, granted, I know this is the first episode, but it just never kind of drug me in like you would see with like a Game of Thrones or whatnot, because granted, that's kind of like political intrigue, and it kind of showed more of like the brutality. Now, granted, there was killing and everything involved, and you kind of see the almost video game aspects with like this dude increasing this heist event, and then having a guest pretty much take out the dude in one shot. It's like, so he screwed up that dude's programming and everything, and it's like, okay, this is kind of interesting, and you've got the kind of elements here, but you gotta put that together in an effective package, because those are interesting moral questions. Is it wrong for these people to be doing these to these robots? Are these robots sentient beings? Can they think? Can they feel? Is it wrong to be doing this to them? And if it is wrong, what happens when they understand that it is wrong and fight back against that, even with after they figure out about the memory wipes or whatnot? Because it introduces that with Dolores' father, who saw this picture and then starts kind of remembering his past selves, because he has been different kinds of people, like a murder mystery kind of dude, being a leader of a cannibal kind of organization in the woods and all that, and that one's coming through, and he's talking about fighting against the makers and unleashing the hell that has been unleashed upon him and all of his kind, and it's like, okay, that's interesting, but it needs to be done better, in my opinion. So I don't love it, I don't hate it, I'm just like, I'm not interested in it. It's got cool ideas, but I don't think it's really for me. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.